Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so you've sent over this really dense material proposing something, well, pretty radical.
It is. The core idea is that ancient biblical writers, especially in Revelation, deliberately hid descriptions of a very specific, maybe even high-tech, celestial object within the text, using root logograms.
Right, using the ancient language roots to bypass sort of the standard interpretations.
Exactly. The claim isn't based on, modern prophecy, but on decoding these ancient Greek and Hebrew roots. They argue it unlocks descriptions of, well, physics, cosmic warfare, and an entity we can apparently see right now.
And that brings us to our mission today. We're going to try and follow this linguistic trail presented in the sources. The goal is to see if we can establish this alleged deeply hidden connection.
A connection between major end-time symbols. You've got New Jerusalem, the bride of Christ, the woman clothed with the sun from Revelation 12.
And this mysterious object currently moving through our solar system, known as 3I Atlas.
Yeah. Now, I know it sounds like pure speculation, maybe even fantasy right off the bat.
It does.
But the sources insist their method is purely linguistic. They're demonstrating, or trying to, that the ancient root definitions perfectly describe what's being observed with 3I Atlas.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really have to begin where Revelation 12 begins, don't we?
Yeah.
With that famous sign, the woman clothed with the sun. She's described as having brought forth a man-child. Now, on the surface, that sounds like, a birth, simple enough. But these sources say that specific phrase is key.
It's the linchpin, according to them. The Greek word used for brought forth or to produce is tikto.
Okay.
And the argument is this is a deliberate linguistic choice, maybe even a kind of trick, because tikto is almost identical to tekos.
And tekos is the word used later.
Later in Revelation 21, yes, to describe the wall that surrounds New Jerusalem.
Wait, hold on. So the action, bringing forth, is linguistically almost the same word as the structure of the wall itself.
That's the claim. And yeah, that fundamentally changes how you read the event. It's not just a birth anymore.
So why? Why hide wall inside brought forth? What's the supposed reason?
Well, the sources suggest it's to conceal something about the wall itself. Either that the woman is the wall that got damaged, or that her action relates somehow to that perimeter's creation or breach.
Okay, so how do we know that? We need to look at the roots again.
Exactly. You have to break down TECOs. The ancient logograms are TE and KUS.
TE and KUS.
KUS means something like a narrow channel or a perimeter. Pretty straightforward for a wall. But TE is the really interesting part.
What does TE mean?
It means rib. It also means side or a surrounding structure. So the word TECOs for wall is literally describing a surrounding narrow rib-like channel.
A rib-like channel. Okay, that clicks. That immediately makes you think of Genesis, doesn't it?
Instantly.
The logogram TE rib side connects straight back to Adam's side being pierced, the rib being taken.
Right. It implies the wall isn't just stone. It's like a biological structure, or at least contains something vital, like genetic material, the rib that was somehow stolen or extracted.
Forcibly extracted.
Yes. The language seems to maintain this connection, this idea of a pierced side or wall, across both Genesis and Revelation.
Okay, so if something was forcibly extracted, how did it happen? To understand the mechanism, the sources point us to Proverbs 7.
Yeah, this is presented as a parallel allegory, meant to shed light on the Revelation passage. In Proverbs 7, you have this story of a young man.
Right, the one called an ox.
Exactly, an ox, which the sources link directly to Isu, or Christ, who is the Alpha, the Aleph, the ox symbol. And this young man is, well, destroyed by an adulterous wife figure. She's used as a weapon.
The weapon being the dart. She shoots him with a dart.
Correct. And the Hebrew word for that dart is hes. His means arrow.
Arrow. Okay, I see where this is going. That links back to the TE logogram again.
It does.
Yeah.
Because TE, besides meaning rib and side, also means attack, or arrow.
So the language itself connects the piercing action in Genesis, the attack in Proverbs, and the structure in Revelation. Same root.
Precisely. The same type of event seems to be described allegorically in all three places.
But Proverbs 7 gets really specific about where the attack lands. She shoots the dart into his liver. To take his soul, it says. Now, if we're following this linguistic trail thinking about cosmic events, why the liver? What could piercing a liver possibly represent?
And this is where, honestly, the linguistic argument gets pretty compelling, according to these sources. The Hebrew word for liver is kabed.
Kabed. Okay.
You divide kabed into its two root logograms, like they did with Ticos, you get Ka and Bad.
Ka and Bad. And what do those mean in this context of like walls and attacks?
Ka translates as gate,
Yeah.
and Bad translates as city, or sometimes wall.
Wait, just let me process that. You're saying the sources argue that the Proverbs 7 story isn't about anatomy. It's a linguistic map showing the wife used an arrow
Wheats and assaults, yes.
to pierce the gate, Ka, of the city wall, Bad.
That is the exact conclusion presented. The weapon, Histi, the action piercing, the target, Kbed, Ka plus Bad, it's all a linguistic overlay. The attack on the liver allegorically describes the assault on the gate of New Jerusalem.
Whose wall, as we just established, has a root name, Te, meaning attack, rib, side, and arrow.
It all ties back together.
Okay. So the wall was pierced, the gate was breached, the attack succeeded. What was stolen? The sources connect all these different terms: rib, soul, inheritance, blood.
They do. They synthesize these, arguing they're all allegories for one specific thing.
Which is?
Ribonucleic acid, RNA, and a related molecule, glycolaldehyde.
Whoa, okay, that's a jump. From theology and linguistics straight to molecular biology. Why RNA?
The sources claim the ancient descriptions of what was stolen, its function, its importance, perfectly match RNA's role. But here's the really radical part. They state that this stolen material, this glycolaldehyde and RNA, is described in the root language as, and I quote, neither of which are naturally occurring on Earth.
Not naturally occurring on Earth. That's an incredible claim to find buried in ancient texts.
It is. So just to be clear for everyone listening, the argument from these sources is that the whole cosmic drama in the Bible, this conflict, was fundamentally about getting hold of the specific genetic material RNA that originated somewhere else, not here.
And the piercing of the wall, the taking of the rib, it's all allegory for successfully grabbing that non-terrestrial RNA.
Exactly. The Bible as a history of an attempt to steal and maybe later regenerate this unique RNA.
Okay, so let's bridge this ancient blueprint to now. If New Jerusalem is this wall, the structure that was pierced, containing stolen alien RNA, what does it actually look like? This is where 3i Atlas enters the picture, right?
Right. The linguistic evidence, they argue, doesn't describe a city of streets and buildings, but a physical, potentially technological object. When John calls New Jerusalem the city, polis, the root breakdown is bul plus is, and that translates to bright, high, glowing, luminous object.
What, bricks and mortar, then? More like a UFO.
Essentially, yes. A celestial vessel. And that description lines up with how the bride is described, too. The word for bride is nymphi. The roots describe something high, to be above, something with wings and feathers, and crucially, something that lifts the prince, meaning Isu.
So again, a large, bright, flying object.
Consistently. But the most specific visual link, the one they really hammer home to connect it to 3i Atlas, comes from the word for wife. New Jerusalem is the lamb's wife.
Okay, so what does the Greek word gun, wife, tell us visually?
This is apparently the smoking gun, linguistically. Gun literally contains a physical description. The first part, G-U-N.
G-U-N.
Means dappled, speckled, variegated, multicolored. But it also specifically describes a circle with a discrete point, which is the ancient way of describing a toroid, a donut shape. A circle with a hole in the middle.
Wow. Okay, speckled, multicolored, and a specific shape, circular with a hole. That's incredibly detailed for a word that just means wife.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And the second part of gun is E. E means to rise, descend, to become visible, or even to remove.
So putting it together, gun describes a high-flying, multicolored, speckled, circular object with a hole in the center that moves up and down and appears visually.
Precisely. And the sources argue that when you look at recent telescopic photos of 3i Atlas, well, it's described as a high, brightly colored, self-illuminating object, confirmed to be metallic, likely nickel.
With a central perforation, a hole.
Exactly. They claim it's a perfect match to the ancient linguistic description embedded in the word goon.
That is quite a correlation. Okay, let's go back to the woman in Revelation 12 for a moment. She's wearing this circular crown, a Stephanos, made of 12 stars.
Right.
Now, if the main structure, the wall, was damaged, presumably these stars, this crown, relate to the structure's foundation or maybe repair.
That's the logic.
Yeah.
The 12 stars are linked to the 12 gates of New Jerusalem. And Revelard explicitly says those gates are made of pearls.
Marguerites. So the crown is the perimeter of gates. The stars are the pearls gates.
Yes. And check the word for pearl, marguerites. It contains the logogram MAR.
M-A-R, what does that mean?
Mar means soul. It also means liver and foundation.
Liver. Okay, so that ties the gate material, the pearls, right back to Proverbs 7, the piercing of the young man's liver, which we decoded as the gate, to steal the soul, the RNA material.
It creates a coherent loop. The stars aren't literal stars. They're the 12 foundational gates around the circular wall, linked to the stolen soul of our RNA concept. And even the word star, aster, it breaks down too. Ast means unique, or one. And T breaks down further into TE, our RibRNA logogram again, plus UR, which means soul or liver. So a star is a unique RibRNA soul liver.
So the stars forming the crown are representations of the foundational gates containing this essence. Okay, so the structure was pierced, it was attacked. Does the text acknowledge the damage? Maybe its composition?
It seems to, yeah, in a very specific phrase. Revelation 12 says the woman was pained to be delivered. We already know delivered is tikto, the wall.
Right, but pained is basaniso.
Yes. And basaniso. This is crucial. The standard translation is pained, tormented, vexed. But in classical Greek, its primary meaning, its literal meaning, is to test metal.
To test metal, like checking the quality or integrity of metal.
Exactly, like you'd test gold or silver on a touchstone.
That something isn't describing labor pains at all. It's describing a physical inspection of the structure.
That's the argument. Given that 3I Atlas is confirmed as a nickel-metal structure, the linguistic reading suggests the passage should be, New Jerusalem was testing the metal of the wall.
Testing the metal. Maybe after it was damaged by that TE attack, that arrow? Assessing the breach?
It provides very technical context, yeah. A structural assessment after an assault rather than a biological birth.
That completely reframes that chapter. Okay, what about the man-child? He gets caught up. Harpazo, the rapture word to the throne, thronos. Is the throne also part of this vessel, 3I Atlas?
Sources analyze the Aramaic root for throne, bikursie. And breaking that down gives a functional description.
Okay, what function?
It describes the throne B as an inanimate object. Its purpose is to separate and to deliver Kur. It does this at a time when horns, powers, are subdued, and it produces rays and antenna, psi, bringing woe or judgment.
So the throne isn't a chair, it's the command center, or maybe the transport mechanism of this object, producing rays and antenna.
That's how it's interpreted. It's the functional core of New Jerusalem 3I Atlas.
And this man-child rules with a rod of iron. That sounds like a weapon or scepter, but if the throne is the command center...
Then the rod probably isn't a literal stick either. Let's look at the words. Rod is rhabdos.
Rhabdos.
It contains RB. Rhabin's a ring or a circle with a hole in the middle.
The torrid shape again.
Exactly. And the second part, DUS or USU, refers to a transportation basket, or sometimes, get this, a silver metal disc.
A silver metal disc, shaped like a ring with a hole.
Okay.
And the iron part, rod of iron.
Iron is siderus. The roots of siderus translate to lights, rays, horns, and antenna, also high, and foundation to lift.
So putting rhabdos and siderus together, the rod of iron isn't a scepter. It describes ruling. How?
Ruling within a high silver metal disc, featuring lights, rays, and antenna.
He rules from within the object itself. The rod is the vessel's control system, or maybe the vessel itself described functionally. The throne and the rod are just different ways of describing New Jerusalem 3I Atlas.
That's the synthesis presented in the sources, yes. The entire linguistic structure, root by root, seems to confirm that the woman, the bride, the city, New Jerusalem, they're all the same entity. This high, circular, multicolored, flying metal object, 3I Atlas.
An object that was pierced, had something vital stolen, was tested or repaired, and is now operational for, well, deliverance and judgment.
It's a remarkably consistent picture painted by the language, connecting ancient text to modern observation.
It really is a profoundly detailed linguistic case.
And, this leaves us with one final kind of provocative thought for you to consider. We mentioned the logogram E from Goon, the word for wife.
Right, meaning to rise, descend, become visible.
Well, that same logogram E also carries another meaning, to appear as a witness.
As a witness. So, are you suggesting 3I Atlas could be one of the two witnesses mentioned in Revelation 11?
It's a question the sources raise. Those witnesses, remember, they prophesy for a specific period, 3.5 years. They're associated with plagues. They seem to be killed, and then they rise again.
Okay.
And the timing might be relevant. 3I Atlas has recently, observably, undergone a transformation. It turned blue.
Blue. Why is that significant?
It resonates with certain prophecies, like the Hopi prophecy of the blue star Kachina, which is seen as a sign of purification or regeneration just before major change.
And the word regeneration itself, in Matthew 19, The Greek root means to be taken back to a state of purity.
Exactly. So if this ancient linguistic blueprint seems to describe this object so accurately, and if we're now seeing physical signs like the color change that align with prophecies about regeneration, purification, and witnesses.
The question becomes, are we actually in that moment now? The time of ascension, purification, the raising of New Jerusalem, getting ready to fulfill its function, maybe even take passengers?
That's the question posed by integrating these linguistic findings with current events. What stands out to you when you put all these pieces together? We definitely encourage you to keep exploring these sources, keep questioning, and perhaps keep looking up.